The LA Chargers and Indianapolis Colts squared off yesterday in SoFi Stadium in California, and it was almost a rout by the Indianapolis Colts. The Chargers kept it somewhat close, and in a 21-point performance in the second half, they kept it to only a two-touchdown deficit at the end of the game. But from quarters 1 through 3, the Indianapolis Colts really took care of the Chargers. And even though the Chargers through the passing game had over 400 yards, they still were able to make enough plays on the Colts end. They had the two interceptions, one by Nick Cross in the end zone and another by Grover Stewart after he batted the ball seemingly 50 feet into the air, and it just trickled on back down to him for the interception. Jonathan Taylor had another incredible performance. This continues his league-leading both rushing touchdown, rushing yard, rushing attempt. Like, this is the guy that Saquon Barkley was last year, just leading the league in everything in terms of rushing statistics. You also had Alec Pierce lead the team in receiving. You had Tyler Warren get a touchdown. Michael Pittman get a touchdown. Offensively yesterday, you really had every single one of your weapons performing at an elite level. And defensively, I already mentioned Grover Stewart getting an interception. I already mentioned Nick Cross getting an interception. But it was also DeForest Buckner helping close out the game with a couple of sacks in the second half yesterday. It was Zaire Franklin, who didn't have a typically loud game, but he made a play in the end zone yesterday on a incredible coverage play on Ladd McConkey deep down the middle. He stayed with him stride for stride, broke up a pass in the end zone that would have been a touchdown, and that helped seal the Colts' win yesterday. For the Chargers, it was an interesting performance because we know running the ball is going to be an issue. Not only do they not have their starting tackles, or they're down some offensive linemen, they don't have any of their running backs. They're down both Najee Harris and Omarion Hampton at this point. And so, Justin Herbert ends up leading the team in rushing, 6 carries for 31 yards. As a whole, the entire running back room had 10 carries for 23 yards. It's definitely going to be something for the Chargers going forward if they really want to try to win this year. And yes, they could wait for Hampton to come off of IR. They could possibly sign somebody or trade for somebody, but they need to do something now. Because even when Omarion Hampton comes back, the depth behind him is seemingly light. And it doesn't seem like there's many options that the Chargers trust to run the ball. Now, I know they got down early. They were down 23-3 by the time halftime came around. But I think even if that deficit was something like 23-13 or anything like that, the Chargers still probably would have been throwing the ball as much as they did in the second half. You do look at this passing game and you think, man, maybe we have our tight end with Oronde Gadsden. 7 receptions for 164 yards and a touchdown. This is pretty much a continuation of his stellar performance last week when he had 7 receptions on 8 targets for 68 yards. Keenan Allen just turned back the clock immensely, had 11 receptions for 119 yards and a touchdown. I mean, he's another guy where if you really want to be a Chargers team in the playoffs, a Chargers team gunning for a playoff position, you kind of need Keenan Allen because Quentin Johnston, he's kind of slowed down from his really good start to the year. Ladd McConkey hasn't gotten off to an incredible start, although this game, I believe he had somewhere in the neighborhood of 80, 70 yards. He had a decent performance yesterday. Overall, the passing game, I think, played pretty well yesterday. Herbert, 55 attempts, 37 completions. It's kind of what they needed to do to try to stay in that game yesterday. The 2 interceptions, I don't necessarily think were bad throws. I mean, one of them he threw before the DB even turned around. It was in the end zone, and so it's kind of like, you don't want to have an interception in the red zone, in the end zone. Like, you never want that. But, I mean, that's a tough throw. It's a tough play for the DB to make, so I'm not really stressing over that if I'm a Chargers fan. And the second interception, I mean, Grover Stewart just batted the ball, and it went straight up in the air, straight back down to him. I think Herbert even tried to make a play on the ball, and it's a tough play to make. And so the 2 interceptions I'm not freaking out about. 3 sacks in 58 dropbacks, possibly actually 60-plus dropbacks when you include the scramble runs. So it's like he got sacked on not a lot, a small percentage of the plays yesterday. Justin Herbert was brought down for a sack. With yesterday's win, the Colts moved to 6-1. It was another game where they did not turn the ball over, they did not allow sacks, and they did not allow the Chargers to move down the field running the ball. This is the 4th game of 7 where the Colts have allowed less than 100 yards rushing. They've won all 4 of those games. And again, it's the 5th game where they did not have a turnover. They are 5-0 when they do not have a turnover. In fact, there's only really one game you can say that they had turnover issues, and that was the LA game, or the LA Rams game back at the end of September when they only lost by a touchdown and had 3 turnovers. So we're looking at a Colts team right now where if they had 2 less turnovers against the Rams, they're 7-0, and they're looking like the best team easily in football. I still think right now, with how they've performed offensively, there's been nobody that can stop them. I mean, their worst performance so far is a 20-point game. That'd be like an above-average game for a lot of teams in the NFL, and that's the Colts' worst performance, and it really was only because of turnovers. You look at how they performed in that game offensively, they still had over 300 yards. I'm sure if you dug into the stats, you'd find something that you didn't like. But again, I just think that was a game, if they win it, they're still looking like the best team in the NFL. And next up, they have the Tennessee Titans, a team that is struggling, a team that just fired their head coach. This was their first week with Mike McCoy as their head coach. And look, Tennessee is just not, I mean, they're 1-6. It's not like it's going to be a game where I think Indianapolis is even fearing a trap game. I think they just have to play to their typical capabilities, and they'll probably win the game easily. The Chargers, on the other hand, they have a very short week. They welcome the Minnesota Vikings in to their home stadium. And I honestly think, if I'm a Chargers fan, I want to see us win a game at home if I'm a Chargers fan. Currently, we're on a 2-game losing streak. After losing to the Washington Commanders 3 weeks ago, we lost to Indianapolis this week. We're 1-2 at home. Technically, you can say that the Chiefs game on opening night was a win at home, but that game was in Brazil, so I don't count that as a home win. And if you look around the division, the lead for the AFC West for the Chargers not only is dwindling, it's already gone. Denver has fully taken the top spot in the AFC West. It had been the Chargers' spot up until this week. And so I don't want to say it's a must-win against Minnesota this week, but I do think it's a game that the Chargers need to be able to get back on track, because it's not going to get a whole lot easier to finish the season. You have the Titans on November 2nd, so next Sunday, but then you have the Steelers, the Jaguars, the Eagles, Chiefs, Cowboys, Texans, Broncos, all to end the year. And so the Chargers need to kind of take care of business when they have a chance this week. And if they lose this week, their hold in the AFC West is going to be completely gone. That's going to be the video for today. Possibly tonight another video, depending on how the Seahawks and Texans game goes, as well as the Buccaneers and Lions game. If you have a certain game, team, or player you want me to talk about, let me know in the comments below. And I'll see you in the next video.